Welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And I'm joined, as always, by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big working out Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, boy, that's a wild intro, huh? 100 days to college football. What do you think, baby?
Oh, man, yeah, it's right around the corner. We've even got some kickoff time, Shane. We've got some point spreads. And this will be a little bit of a special one because we've been saving up. We've had a couple questions thrown our way. We're going to be able to hit on a number of SEC teams. So I'm fired up for it, brother, and I'm fired up for football. I know you are.
Absolutely. Mike sent me an email on a couple of these questions. He says, Shane, how much preparation have you done? I said, absolutely none.
Well,
no, I
got to be honest with you, Shane. Yeah. When I threw you out the fantasy draft, I appreciate all the feedback, man. Tons and tons of people sharing their players, sharing their team. And I was, just blown away by how much research Shane did. So I thought we were getting maybe a new Shane that did some research, but no, that was a one-time deal.
No, that was a one-time hit because I love fantasy football and that wasn't like the premise of that, but it kind of just, I don't know, it kind of triggered something. I was like, man, I want to put together the best team here. But no, I just want to let everybody know, not only is it 100 days from college football, but it is 100 days of my goal, my big orange walks, Mike. The 3 rules, real simple. I was going to keep it under 3,000 calories. I was going to gallon of water a day, and then a walk. I do an hour walk every day. And I'm going to tell you, brother, we put this out there, and I got so much feedback, so a lot of encouragement, and I appreciate everybody doing that and reaching out, telling me different options to drink and eat, and different options to work out, and everything like that. So it's just it means a lot, and I just want to get dialed in. So when the season comes, I'm 100%, and we had some things happen this offseason. It was eye openers for me, and I ain't getting younger. So I was like, well, let's do this. And I'll tell you, brother, there's a couple things. The calories, believe it or not, is the easiest part of this whole deal. I thought that would be the toughest part. Budgeting, I'm doing good there, but man, this water, brother, I don't think you realize how much is in a gallon. But my wife, she laid it out. I was like, I got to drink 8 of these, It's like, and then so now I don't want to wait to the very end because I don't want to pee all night. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like trying to kill these waters right now. And of course, the big walk is the one that I've been putting off, but the sun's about to go down a little bit, so I'm going to take the family. We're going to go out and we're going to get that walk in. But every day, 100 days of this, I think we'll be in good shape, brother.
Well, here's a tip, Shane. I think the main ingredient in a Coors Light is water.
I did debate on whether to count that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, that's 6. How many fluid ounces? But I said no. I legit. Here's the problem I'm coming into because I like diet drinks. So for instance, one of my sandwiches today, everybody's like, man, this is a college football podcast. We're talking about food. But real quick, I got me a Chick-fil-A sandwich. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm going to get a Diet Coke, And I was like, that's a lot of liquid wasted, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, can you guys do a bottle of water? So I had to, as much as I'd like to have the soda, I know I've got to get these waters knocked out. So it's definitely already starting to change the way I think about things.
Well, Shane, I mean, we didn't even set this up, but that's a perfect transition because we got the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic.
Oh,
Shane,
wow. Come on.
Officially announced here. That's what I was going to start the show with, on the theme of 100 days to college football. And ABC has announced a couple of their primetime college football games. And, of course, we got some SEC teams on the list. So just wanted to make a quick note of these games, Shane. Right off the bat, week 1, Georgia, Oregon. That's the Chick-fil-A kickoff, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. It's in Atlanta, of course, Saturday, September 3rd. But now we know it kicks off at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. Again, nationally televised on ABC.
Yeah.
So that's going to be one hell of a matchup, one of the biggest games of the opening weekend. And then we got one other one, Shane. LSU, Florida State, of course. That's on Sunday, September 4th, and that thing's it's going to be a prime time. So 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. So, man, some mega matchups here right out the gate. SEC non-conference games. Can't wait for it. You know what?
Oh, man, I love it. We're getting scheduled times and everything. No, this is great. I'm all for it. Real quick for the listeners, where are these going to be held at again, just so they know?
Yeah, so the Georgia, Oregon, that's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So it'll be basically a Bulldog home game. And then LSU, Florida State, they're playing in New Orleans. So basically an LSU home game, just on a neutral field. So staying close to campus. You know, I know we're much bigger fans of these home and homes, but we'll take what we can get after 200 days of not having football. You know what?
That's right. If you can't be in Athens, you might as well be in Atlanta. And you can't be in Baton Rouge, you might as well be in New Orleans. So I think this is going to be great for the fans. They don't have to travel too far. But again, I'm with you. I do like the home and home. I just don't think. You can't mimic that night game at Death Valley. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I hate that that's getting taken away, but I still think we're going to have excellent football play here.
Now, one other game, Shane, on ABC is already announced, and I don't know why they did it this way, but this is going to be the last regular season rivalry weekend. Florida at Florida State. Now, here's the twist here. They're not playing on Saturday like they normally do. They're playing on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, the day that, that's going to add a little bit to our post-Thanksgiving feast because we'll have the Egg Bowl, of course, on Thanksgiving. And then the CBS, they always carry Arkansas, Missouri.
Right.
And then in the evening, we're going to have Florida State, which is going to be, again, Friday, November 25th, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. So, man, I know Florida, they may not be happy playing on Friday, but, for the rest of us, this is going to give us another primetime SEC game to watch.
Golly, Mike, here I'm day one on this diet, and I'm already thinking about my Thanksgiving feast, my carryover turkey sandwiches. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be awesome. I love that's my all-time favorite week, Thanksgiving week, just because of all the football action, not to mention the food and fellowship. Here I am, brother. I'm going to be thinking about that while I'm walking now. That sweet potato casserole. Yeah.
Now, also, Shane, here on Wednesday, the NCAA, they officially announced two, kind of changes here. I just wanted the audience to be aware of these. They're doing away temporarily for the next
Gary Danielson. Oh, no, just kidding. Just kidding. I was joking.
They're doing away for 2 years, Shane. There's a rule. Maybe not all the audience is aware. 25 scholarship players you can sign in a recruiting class.
Yeah.
They're doing away with that for 2 years. So you can have unlimited signees. And the purpose of that, Shane, with the transfer portal, coaching changes, we're seeing 10, 15, 20 players leave via the transfer portal. And we're borderline on a safety issue to where the 85 total scholarships, that's still in place. But some programs, losing all these guys, they could still sign 25 like they normally do, but then they've only got like 70 scholarship players. So this is something that the NCAA is, they may make it permanent, but for now they're just saying for the next 2 years, you can sign as many players as you want, but you still got to stay under that 85 total. Does that make sense? So imagine LSU this offseason, they've added like 17, 18 guys, and that's just the transfer portal. We're still going to let them sign as many recruits as they want to get to that 85, which I think is a good rule.
Let me ask you, just on that note, and you may not know the answer, but how many, when you look at a roster and you're saying, okay, there's 85 on that roster, is there 85 players in practice during the week, or is there more? Because you always hear preferred walk-ons and walk-ons, whatever. I'm just curious, is there more than 85 on a roster typically? I mean, is there not like a minor league you get called up type of situation, but I'm just wondering, is there only 85 that can, dress or how's that set up? I'm really not, I really have no idea.
No, there's a lot more, Shane. There's usually around 110, 120 players.
Okay.
With you include all the walk-ons and everything. Now, they can't take all those guys on the road. That's why you see,
Right.
Tennessee plays in Neyland Stadium. It looks like they got twice the team the other side
Yeah.
does. And that's why, because they're able to have so many more players for a home game. But
So
there's-
in this,
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry. So in this situation, you can have 85 now that have a scholarship, and if one of those transfer out, maybe you give one of those walk-ons that scholarship that year. They could do something like that.
yeah, absolutely. Anything they need to
okay.
do. But, unfortunately for the walk-ons, this may lead to some of them not getting a scholarship because,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to want to sign as many high school players as you can. So,
Right.
if you're 10 short, you're going to try to sign 35 guys. And, this is just all a tool to kind of even it out. And really, they've needed this for a couple of years here.
Yeah.
But, you look around the SEC, I think South Carolina may be one. There's a couple that, Tennessee comes to mind. Recent coaching turnover, so many guys hitting the portal. And to me, it's a safety issue. I mean, you can't have 8-9 linemen on the roster, which is unfortunately that's a reality at a couple places.
Right. Yeah, we saw it. Like you said, I think they're a couple years too late. This should have been more of a COVID thing, you would think, but
Right.
But maybe it's a trial. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's the new future. But it just seems to make sense to me. Why wouldn't you have that many players with the ability to have a scholarship?
And then one other NCAA rule, Shane, that many fans may gloss over and say, "Why the hell is this important?" But the way the rules are now, Shane, you got to have divisions, like we do in the East, obviously, East and West. You had to have divisions unless you had some kind of exemption to hold a conference championship game.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing away with that, and the only reason is because everyone's looking at these pods and that style to where we can open this thing up and have a lot more flexibility in the scheduling. That is now official. And, man, is it convenient because the SEC spring meetings are about a week and a half away. So, this was anticipated, but it just clears that hurdle to where, the SEC, they're not going to do it right now, but they could blow up and say no more divisions. They could do it tomorrow, and they could still have an SEC championship game. So we're just letting you guys know we are going towards a format to where we do not have divisions in the SEC.
So can you explain the rule one more time? I missed something there.
So previously, we've got the SEC championship game. We got the Big Ten championship.
Right.
We got the Pac-12 championship. In order to hold that championship game,
the
NCAA required you to have divisions.
Oh, okay.
So you'd have
what you're saying.
An East champion and a West champion. That's
I got you.
Yeah. So now we're done away with that. So the
So
only reason they're doing this is so that we can go to this pod system to where, you may have 3, maybe 4 permanent rivals, and the rest of your schedule is going to be, changing year after year.
Yeah. They're very, very convenient. Okay. So clearly we're going to get some answers here in the upcoming months.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's going to be the biggest storyline of Destin, the spring meetings, which is right around the corner. But just wanted to make that quick note. Now, before we get to our Q&A, Shane, I've already discussed all these lines before, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on it because I know the fans love to hear, well, old cousin Shane's got to say, because you're a degenerate gambler like the rest of us here. And FanDuel has released some point spreads here for some big rivalry games. And I'm going to start with one close to your heart, Shane, the bourbon bet game here. Kentucky at Tennessee. Vols favored by 3.5 points. Thoughts on that one?
A little early, but I like it. I think, this is a game that I think comes down to a final possession and 3 points. That you say that could go either way, man. I love this. I think this is perfect, and it plays to the fact that we're going to have yet another competitive ball game. So this is good stuff.
Now Georgia, Florida. In Jacksonville, one of the biggest games on the SEC calendar. Then Bulldogs, Shane, favored by 17 points.
Oh, golly, they hate the Gators, don't they? Come on, man. What's up with that? I think this is fair to say, in the offseason, but this is one of those that you may find yourself betting on and making a little money, because I guarantee you the Florida Gators that we have now is not going to be the same when these two teams meet.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, how about this one, Shay? Tennessee at Georgia. Them dogs favored by 17.5.
Damn. Just crown them already, Mike. Jeez, what are we even doing here? It's funny because everybody talks about how great and competitive this game could be, and they look at Georgia's schedule and they say, well, if there's any team that's going to give them a fit along the way, it's maybe the Tennessee Volunteers, and then you come out with a 17-point spread. So I don't know, man. This one, as a Tennessee fan, obviously Tennessee homer, I like, and the reason I like is Tennessee can score, brother, and they can score quick, and who knows, Georgia may have that lead, but it's one of those that Tennessee possibly could backdoor too. So man, 17, that's 3 scores. That's no respect right there. Hang out in the locker room, Heupel.
Alabama at LSU, the Crimson Tide chain on the road, favored by 16.
Again, these two teams get together. It's like you could throw out the rosters. It's always a tough football game. So 16, I like that a little more than I do 17. I know it sounds crazy, but it could be done with 2 scores. And man, this isn't fun. Where's the close ones at, Mike? Are you starting out with the big ones and then you're leading to the good ones?
Here's a great one for you. LSU at Arkansas. Remember when Pittman got there? Hell, it took them 2 years to be favored in an SEC game. Them Razorbacks favored at home, Shane, by 2.5 points. So the battle for the Golden Boot, that should be a hell of a matchup.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This is the matchup you want to see right here, man. Going in, not knowing who's going to win this thing. You talk to either fan base, they know who's going to win. It's like one of those. That's the type of matchup I want to see.
Now, how about this is wild, Shane. This point spread has flipped so much I can't believe it. But we already hit on it. It's going to be nationally televised by ABC. Florida at Florida State. Yeah. Gators favored by 6 points.
Okay.
But that was 5 days ago, Shane. It has already flipped. Florida State favored by 2. So it's like an 8-point swing right there. That's stunning to me.
Follow the money, Mike. People, they think it goes one way and it goes the other. So this is one of those that could bounce back, like I said, by the time the season starts. People just need to see Florida in action. And I really do think when they see that the product isn't as bad as you thought it was, this is one of those that's going to quickly flip back. So if I'm a gambler, this one I got a little asterisk, but I may put my paycheck on this one, brother.
All right, how about the Egg Bowl, Shay? Mississippi State at Ole Miss. Them Rebels favored by 5.5.
Wait, who's this? Mississippi State and Ole Miss?
Yes, sir. At
the
Ole
Egg
Miss.
Bowl?
Uh-huh.
Ooh, this is the one. You know what I'm saying? This is one of those games that I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole, because you just don't know who's going to come out victorious in this thing. This is that rivalry that we don't hear much about during the season, but after the game's played, we're like, man, they hate each other. So, yeah, I like this one as far as competitive, but I'm afraid to gamble on it.
All right, how about Georgia at Kentucky? I hate to do this to you, Shane. Another large one here. Bulldogs favored by 16 in Lexington. That one jumps out to me.
Unbelievable. It's just no respect. I get it. Georgia's good. Georgia's got a loaded roster, but, man, they don't think they're going to have any threats. I mean, these are the 2 biggest games they got right here. 16-17 spread, right?
Yeah.
They ain't no. Jeez. What is that?
Hey, them dogs, man, they're on top for a reason.
I know. Enjoy it, guys. Enjoy it. You deserve it.
And last one, Shane, the Iron Bowl. Auburn at Alabama. I'll let you guess this one. What do you think?
Alabama 50. Might as well crown them too, right? No, I think this is – I think hopefully this is a little bit closer, but I want to say it's probably going to be a 17-point game as well.
24 in favor of Alabama. And it opened at 26. It's actually come down a little bit.
Oh, jeez.
That's crazy, isn't it? I mean, hell, Auburn nearly knocked them off last year.
One of my favorite weeks is rivalry week. I mean, if maybe opening week, it depends when you ask me before the season starts. At the end of this 100-day countdown, I'm gonna be ready for the opening week. But when we're into college football and we're getting to the tail end of this thing, nothing beats a good rivalry matchup. And you think about even these two teams last year, there was nobody gave Auburn a shot in hell, and then this thing came down to the wire. So I wouldn't expect it to be any different here, but this is when you're gambling, man. If you're looking at these spreads and you're like, okay, I'm like this Tennessee-Georgia one. I'm not confident that Tennessee's going to beat Georgia, but I am pretty confident that they can keep it within a couple scores. You know what I'm saying? So This is when you put those bets in. If you think the Florida Gators are going to beat Florida State, now's the time. They got Florida State favored, and I just think by the time this game's kicking off, it's going to flip-flop again. So this is those long bets if you want to take a chance and put some money on it. And plus, it's nice you get to look at the money for a while. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I can put a $100 bet on something, 8 months out, it feels like. Well, I could pull that money out anytime I want. But once the season kicks off, that may change the spread. I may just bet against it, But anyway, that's my thoughts on the gambling.
All right, brother. Hey, we got these questions lined up. I'm very curious to see where your mind goes. Given
I don't know why I said you pulled out. That'd be you can't do that, guys. Sorry, I should probably. I meant you could bet the opposite way and like call it whatever. You got what I'm saying.
Hedge your bets.
Hedge your bets. We call it. But I just that's what I'm saying. If you're betting that far out, if you're feeling a little weak in the knees when you get close to that game, just bet on the other side and just take the loss.
All right, brother, you ready to handle these questions we got lined up from the fans?
Yeah. Well, clearly I'm all over the place today, Mike. You can tell all this damn water in my system. I'm like the Aquaman here. Surprised I ain't had to take a leak yet.
First question, Shane, comes from our buddy Justin Rodriguez, same guy that he got in last time. He was asking us about the Arkansas Razorbacks and the one loss. My man's got a muscle car. He showed us on social media. He's got a much nicer vehicle than I got, I'll tell you that. But here's Justin's question, Shane. What would it take for Bryce Young to win the Heisman once again? Do you think they would give it to him again? And hashtag interesting theories.
Well, clearly he's a front runner for a reason. You know what I'm saying? This is a guy that is going to have a loaded roster yet again, and plenty of talent around him. I think years past, getting somebody on that offensive side other than a quarterback to win the Heisman is just extremely rare these days. It just doesn't really happen, and I don't expect it. There's a couple names floating out there right now. We talked about our boy down there at Texas A&M the other day. But I still think at the end of the season, this is an award that's going to be handed out to yet another quarterback, and most likely in the SEC. So if I'm picking one, I think there's a good shot this is your Heisman candidate next year.
Yeah, but it's so weird, Shane, because I don't understand why, but it seems like whoever the front runners are going into the season, anytime they slip up, they got a bad game or they whatever their team loses, it's like we just write these guys off, and I don't understand it. I don't understand the logic, but I think that could really hurt Bryce. So that's something to think about. Given the only two-time winner, Archie Griffin, I believe is his name, Ohio State running back. That was before our time, but I think there's something to be said for that. They don't like to obviously give us award out to the same player twice. And then here's something that this caught my mind here while I was pondering this question. We all assume Alabama's going to run through their schedule.
Right. And
I'm not saying they won't, but I don't know if that helps a guy like Bryce. As strange as that sounds, Shane, if they beat everybody, well, they're not going to beat everybody by 40 or 50, but if they do that 7, 8, 9 times, it's almost like it's kind of ho-hum, and people, here's a perfect example, Shane. Bryce Young was not going to win the Heisman until last season. They came back. They were down 10-0 in the Iron Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Auburn. So there had to be a comeback, and then he turned around and shredded Georgia's defense, which in a close game. So
right.
It's almost like you need struggles. You need something to overcome. People get attached to, oh, not only is this a stat machine guy, but this is a clutch guy. This is a guy that can come from behind. And if they just beat the hell out of everybody, I don't know. I think there's going to be something lost for him there.
I think that's why I picked them, though. I don't think, and this is my thought, is I don't think they have an easier path to a national championship than the Georgia Bulldogs do. I think, that's exactly why Stetson will not be a high. I mean, he may be a finalist, but he will not win it because majority of their games are not going to require his arm. The majority of his games are going to just lean on that defense and that running game, which has always worked for the Bulldogs. And I think this year with Alabama that they are going to need more from Bryce than they had last year. And I think maybe that's why I'm kind of penciling him in because, the path, like I said, to the national championship is a little bit tougher in Alabama, I think. Now, this is just my opinion, than the Georgia Bulldogs right now.
No, that certainly makes sense. So I see what you're saying, but I'm going to lean no just because you said yes. How about that?
Yeah, you're probably right too, man. And it does. You get these ho-hum seasons like you mentioned. It's just they're just not sexy, man. They're not selling magazines, if you will. So he's gonna have to have some games, brother. I mean, because there's going to be plenty of games he's pulled out in the third quarter. That doesn't win you these types of awards anymore. What wins you is the final drive, the final quarter. Those close marquee games, and if they can do that on prime time, then yeah, I could definitely see it. He's a first rounder, probably the first quarterback selected. But if he drops, man, like you said, if he drops one or they don't need him as much, then it's not hard to find another guy.
Right. All right, how about this question, Shane, from Levi Collins? Over, under 5 years, Mark Stoops will still be the head coach of Kentucky. And then he says, after this last offseason, I don't think it's crazy to think that he could get a lifetime contract in the next few years or so. And I think he references that lifetime contract, Shane, because the basketball coach, John Calipari, I think they even called it. They said this is a lifetime deal. So certainly Mark Stoops, hell of a coach there for the Kentucky Wildcats. So what are you saying, Shane? Over, under 5 years, Mark Stoops at Kentucky going forward.
I say over, Mike. And I think one of the reasons is over is the way they've kind of created his contract to begin with. It kind of just leaves that door open for him to stay there as long as he wants. And you see, and Calipari is a prime example. The guys that are going to be making this decision just gave him, in essence, a lifetime contract. So I don't see this any different. This is one of those things. It is so tough to hold on to a coach and have a productive coach in your, I'm saying, just think about all the teams that we talk about, and every 3 or 4 years they're looking for a new guy. This is a program that has progressively gotten better every single season, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. And a lot of that's to do with Coach Stoops, and they would be absolutely nuts to get rid of him. They need to make – this is one of those guys I think we look back, you think it's like Snyder and Joe Pa and your boy down there in Florida State, these Philip Fulmer, some of these long-tenured coach, Nick Saban at Alabama. I mean, it's crazy these days. Saban hasn't been down there 20 years, but it feels like he has. He's going to be one of those coaches that they're going to have. I mean, this is it. This is his final stop, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's two ways to look at it, Shane. I mean, everything you just said, I agree with. Legacy. I mean, hell, this will be Mark Stoops Stadium if he stays, another 10, 15 years and keeps on winning, because he's about to break the school record for winning. He's going to do it next season. So just imagine what that record is if he stays another 10, 15, 20 years, what have you. So, I mean, he's going to own every record that he doesn't already have. So there's a lot to be said for that. I like the fact that you point at the contract. For those that don't know, he's got it written into his deal. You win 7 games, you automatically get a 1-year extension added to your contract. You win 10, which people were laughing. That was laughable. Kentucky doesn't win 10 football games. They've done it twice in 2 years now. Or, excuse me, twice in 4 years. He gets automatic 2 years put onto his deal. Mm-hmm. And this is not some deal where you're paying him in peanuts. I mean, he's a top 20 paid coach already. So
right.
He's making a ton of money in Lexington. They've invested in him. They invested in the program. They invest in these coaches. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to see him going anywhere, Shane, because there's not many places for him to go that it's like an upgrade. You know, I mean, Florida State, I thought that was interesting a couple of years ago, went after him. I believe he said no. I think that's how that worked out. That was surprising to me. I would have thought maybe, but once a guy like Stoops says no to Florida State, I'm going to stay at Kentucky, it's like, what else is there? I mean, maybe when Nick Saban retires in 20 years, maybe Mark's, you know, I don't know if Kentucky would consider Mark Stoops, but maybe a job like that he's got to look at. Maybe Ohio State. But beyond, you know, teams like that, the only reason he would leave, and this is no due respect to Kentucky because this is what he's trying to build it toward, but the only reason I could see him leaving is kind of like Brian Kelly there at Notre Dame, Shane, where he said, you know, I think Brian Kelly's like 59, 60 years old. And I think he looked at it and said, I'm never going to win a national championship here. Right. And that's the only thing I've not accomplished at the major college football level. You know, could Mark Stoops in 10 years say that? Again, maybe he's got Kentucky up to that point. But that's the only way I could see him leaving it. And the question was 5 years. So I tend to agree with you. 5 years, I'm pretty confident Mark Stoops, given his contract, everything he's built, you know, they're getting better and better every year. I think he's there for good. And the only way, again, is if Alabama comes calling, Ohio State, somewhere where he could take it over and immediately win a national championship. I think it's almost impossible to say no to something like that, you know?
And it's one of those extremely rare situations where I think both the coach and the fans are good with the company. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, I'm good here if you are. We'll just keep rolling. So,
all right, how about this one, Shane, from Ty Richardson? He's actually going to be on the show, Arkansas radio host. Mm-hmm. Alabama will face the toughest opposition on the road this season from which opponent? And here's the 5 he's got circled, Shane. At Texas, that's week 2, I think. Yeah, it's week 2. Arkansas, which I think is like week 5. Mm-hmm. At Tennessee, at LSU, or at Ole Miss. Which of those road games is going to be the toughest to win for them Crimson Tide?
Whew, brother. Well,
I think I already know what you're going to say, but
well, you know, there's this team in Knoxville, all right? Like I said, the thing about Alabama, I mean, and you watch with Nick Saban, he obviously he doesn't want a shootout, but I think of a few years past, you know, us going down there, Tua getting hurt, you know, it became a little bit of a just a back and forth, and I think that's what Tennessee wants, and I don't think that's what Alabama necessarily wants because they get away from their true identity. Mm-hmm. So I just think situational. I like Tennessee because it's a tough thing to game prep for. You heard him talk about it. Saban said it last year. You can't practice what Tennessee is doing. You can't mimic that high tempo offense. And one of the things that I admire most about Nick Saban, none of the fake damn injuries, brother. He goes toe to toe, and whatever you put out there, he puts out. And I think that's what caught him off guard last year is that defense did get wore out. So now I'd say all that to say this: the only other one I would consider is the Arkansas matchup. I just think I think this year is their year. I think they make some noise, brother. I really do. I think they make some noise in the West, but I just can't. I can't pull away from my big orange balls. So I have to pick one. I'm going to go Tennessee 1A, Arkansas 1B. How about that?
Yeah, and here's a way to look at it, Shane. I mean, we could play the hypotheticals all all night long. But Arkansas, this is not going to be any kind of layup or anything. But if they can beat A&M, once again, they're going to be undefeated. When Alabama comes to town, I think it's the 5th week of the season, so they'll both be 4-0. We all know how much I love KJ Jefferson, Sam Pittman, and his coaching staff. I mean, it makes for one hell of a matchup. And I just think that if Arkansas, if they can be undefeated, I just think that atmosphere is going to be incredible. It's going to be hostile. It's going to be like Texas walking into there, had no idea the buzzsaw they were walking into. So that's kind of why I'm leaning towards Arkansas. Now, you could say the same thing about Tennessee, Shane, but Tennessee is going to have to beat, Florida before this game. And hell, we all know the history there. They're going to have to win in Baton Rouge the week before this game. 2 games that ain't going to be easy, brother. But, if Tennessee's undefeated, maybe you can make the same arguments. Neyland Stadium's going to be so electric when them Crimson Tide coming in. But I'm going to go with Arkansas just because I think it's more realistic that they're undefeated. But here's a wild card, Shane. Ole Miss at the tail end here. Maybe that's the correct answer, but it's just tough to know what they got in their coaching staff, in their players. Hell, we don't even know who the starting quarterback's going to be. We just don't know how good Ole Miss is going to be. If they're another 10-win team, then maybe that's the answer because, they nearly knocked them off last time they went to Oxford. So, the more I think about it, I mean, there's a couple of tricky games here for Alabama, and it's crazy that we're just completely dismissing LSU, one of the toughest places to play in all of college football. I was about to say,
I mean, here you got Death Valley. It's probably going to be at night. Kelly's going to be. I mean, this isn't a style of offense that they've seen from LSU in a long, long time. So I think that's another one that hasn't. I mean, that's what I was saying earlier in that other question. I think Alabama has these little speed bumps, and it's just not like they're just going to steamroll through the West or just SEC in general. I think they've got some tough little opponents and situational opponents. When we talk night games and when did they fall on the schedule, who they played the week before, and that sort of thing. So Alabama ain't got an easy road.
No doubt. All right, how about this question, Shay, from Celtic in the Ville? Chances, Tennessee, Florida, South Carolina, Missouri, and Kentucky. So basically everybody in the East besides Georgia and Vandy, they all take 2 losses from each other, essentially. So I think what he's really asking is just basically, can any of these teams lose to each other, and can any of them beat each other? And that's a tough one to answer, but how about I do it this way, Shane? I rank these in, from most likely to take 2 losses from that group to least likely. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, let me get my thing here. So we got Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina, Mizzou, and who was the other?
Florida.
Okay. All right. And now, if they all played, which they all are going to play each other, so least likely to take 2. Is that what you're saying? Who's out of when these guys play? Who am I looking at having the better schedule? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go Kentucky number 1. I'm going to go Tennessee number 2. I'm going to go.
Now it's getting tough.
Yeah, it is. Let's go. Shit, brother. Let's go Florida 3, South Carolina 4, Mizzou 5.
Yeah, that's close to where I have it as well. I got this one's for you, buddy. I think Tennessee is the least likely to take 2 losses from this group, and here's a big reason why, Shane. They get Florida and Kentucky. They get them both at home.
Yeah.
And Missouri. They get Missouri at home too. So, South Carolina, they ain't going to be no damn layup, that's for sure. But if you're asking me to bet my life on, winning 3 out of the 4, I think Tennessee's the best bet. And I'm going to disagree with you a little bit with Kentucky. I'm going to put Florida number 2. And I'll tell you why. Because they host Kentucky, and they host South Carolina, and hell, I don't care where that Tennessee game's played. I favor them Gators. You know what I mean? So
what week's that South Carolina game?
It's later in the season. I think it's early November.
Early November in Kentucky. See, the thing about Florida, though, is I do think that they're going to be a program that's playing better at the end of the year. But I think a lot of these 50-50 games that they're going to have on their matchup, earlier in the season, they're going to be playing these guys. So that's the only reason I've got Florida moved down so low. I think they're going to be a good – and at the end of the year, we may have a different restructure. We may have Florida the best of the group. But it's just the way the scheduling's played out, I'm just afraid that they're going to have some slip-ups, just like you see every time we get a new coach, new coordinators, just new schemes. You're going to have some mistakes, and I think that's what's going to hurt Florida is they're getting some of those games so early in the season.
Now, the team that I think we're certainly overlooking here, which could be a huge mistake by the end of the season, South Carolina. We both put them number 4, but you're hosting Tennessee, so that's a game you could certainly win. Gamecocks last season, went sideways on you in a hurry, but you beat Florida last year. But the problem is, every season it seems like South Carolina goes into it saying, "Hey, we're going to beat Kentucky," and I think they've lost 6 out of 8. So I mean, you got to get over Kentucky. Florida, can you beat them 2 years in a row? It's not impossible, but those are usually really, really brutal games. Florida and South Carolina, neck and neck. Hell, they lost to Missouri last year. So I just don't think, I put Tennessee up here for a reason, and you're hosting them, so that gives you a little bit of, a little luck in your back pocket, I guess you could say. But I don't know. I think South Carolina could make us both look like fools, but I'm leaving them 4 for now.
I lost a lot of money to South Carolina last year, so I'm still a little hurt. You know what I'm saying? It's like I want to buy into that. I do. I want to say, man, South Carolina's right there. They're the ones that are going to be threatening the Georgia Bulldogs in the East. I want to. I feel like they've got a great quarterback. I feel like they've got a great running back room. I feel like they've got some pieces coming back where they're going to be an electric offense and a more aggressive defense. And at times they were really good last year. It's just there was a lot of times, though, man, that they shouldn't have lost games that they should have. There was a lot of times that the games should have been closer than they were, and they didn't. And now that may be part Beamer's fault first year, but maybe that's something they build off going to this year. And like you said, we may look at the end of the season next year and say, damn, we were way off on South Carolina. And I hope that happens. But right now, I'm in South Carolina's a prove it to me. I'm not reading the clippings anymore. I want to see what they got, what kind of product they're putting on the field, and before I put any money on the Gamecocks.
Yeah, and I recently did the Locked On Gamecocks podcast, Shane, with Keith Allsat, my buddy Keith. Great guy there. But, he made an interesting point. He's trying to pump the brakes a little bit with this South Carolina team. I mean, I know everyone's excited about what Beamer's doing and all these ads, but in his mind, and I think he's correct here, we shouldn't be sitting here saying South Carolina, man, they could win the East if everything breaks right, because the goal this year, if you're Shane Beamer and company, should be we need to beat Kentucky, we need to beat Missouri, and we got to beat Tennessee at home before we start looking at the calendar and saying Clemson, Georgia, we're gonna beat your ass. Like you got to beat these teams that you feel like you're in their same category. You got to climb that ladder in the East. It's just not going to happen overnight. So I think he's on to something there. I mean, you got to show you're legitimate and slowly move up that ladder before there's talk of winning the East.
Yeah, I do too. And the depth. I'm still worried about the competitive depth because I do think the roster's good, but how does it look later in the season? So I think what they're doing down there, I think they're building something for sure in Columbia, but I'm just not, like I said, I'm afraid to put any money on them right now.
All right, last question here, Shane, from, I love this name, Cockiest One 2001. Mike and Shane, do you think...
Is this their brother? My brother here?
Do you think the Vegas odds, and he's talking about the SEC, odds to win the conference, favoring Auburn, which is they're 40-1, LSU 40-1, Ole Miss 20-1, over Tennessee 100-1, Kentucky 40-1, South Carolina 150-1, and Mississippi State, which was 101, are based off historical national bias on the part of non-professional gamblers. And he says, I think they have it all wrong. If I'm a betting man, here are the teams that I'm betting on. South Carolina, Tennessee, Mississippi State. He ain't buying A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, Auburn, Florida, and Vanderbilt. And then the rest are stayaways for him. But so I don't know what you thought on that, Shane, but I certainly do agree with him.
Like win in the East, win in the West, win in the SEC.
Well, I think he's just saying like the best value odds based on,
I got you.
Because it's wild that no disrespect to Auburn fans, but 40-1 to win the league when Tennessee's 100-1, South Carolina's 150-1. I mean, these just don't make any sense. And I think he's on to something, Shane, because for those of you that maybe don't gamble that much, I mean, they certainly know people are going to bet the names they know. And if you live in Oklahoma or Arizona or something, you probably couldn't name 5 players on Mississippi's roster, or Mississippi State or South Carolina. And hell, Tennessee, you might know the uniform, but you still probably can't name a whole lot of players beyond Hendon Hooker. So I think there's a lot of truth to what he's being said here that, particularly these early lines. And that's why we urge people. That's why we try to bring them to you as soon as they come out, because there's real value. And as we're not trying to dismiss the odds makers or say they're idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. But when they throw out these initial lines, they only take so much money because they know that you can bet it up and they know they got it wrong. And if they're smart, they change it early, but some of them take longer than others. But certainly a lot of this is national bias, I guess you could say. And that's just, it's not that they hate Tennessee or Mississippi State or South Carolina. It's just they don't know enough about those teams. They don't know enough about the schedule they're going to play. So, I think he's on to something here.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the Auburn one's obviously that's the one that's standing out the most. But again, when you're gambling, I like the East this year, and it's not because of my Tennessee biasness. It's just I think when you look at the East, there's the Georgia Bulldogs, and then there's a whole bunch of teams that are like number 2. Mm-hmm. And all it takes is one of those to pop. All it takes is one of those to upset Georgia, and then they're in Atlanta. Then, so I'm looking for which one's more likely to happen. The problem with the West is I can see that with Arkansas. I can see that with Texas A&M. I could see that with Alabama. I could even make an argument with Mississippi State. There's some of these teams that I just think it's too competitive in the West, where the East, not that it's not competitive, it's just I think the path to Atlanta is easier for one of those teams to pop underneath the Georgia Bulldogs.
No, I think you're exactly right, and that's what you're waiting for. You're waiting for players to emerge. You're waiting for the schedule to break your way, because that's all we're saying. And
like if you're a South Carolina fan, it's like put your money on the Gamecocks. You don't have to put that much. You're at 150, so put some money on there, and all you need is for them to beat the Georgia Bulldogs, which guess what? They've done recently. So it's not like it can never happen. Right. It's just and we're putting a lot of stock in the Bulldogs. They lost a lot of talent to the draft. And I'm not saying what they got left is bad, because I guarantee it's a low. There's a reason they're 17-point favorites against everybody. But I am saying it is a new team. And that new team, just like any team, is going to have some growing pains, and they're going to have to try to find their identity. And so maybe you're the team that catches the Bulldogs sleeping. So, if you're going to gamble, now's the time to put some money on one of them.
Heck yeah. Well, hey, buddy, I think that is the perfect place to cut it here. I know you got some walking to do.
I was hoping this pod would keep going, and maybe I just no, I'm just kidding. Oh, look, it's dark outside.
You got anything else before we hop off the line?
No, just say a little prayer for my shoes, because they about to get some work on. But no, I'm good, brother. Like I said, it's always nice to see the countdown. Get on that SEC podcast on a YouTube channel. Check out the Twitter. We do a countdown, so 100 of your favorite plays we're going to put up there for you. Mm-hmm. And it's awesome, man. I'm telling you, because sometimes you'll see one of these replays and you were there, and it's like you relive that moment, and then next thing you know, we get in the 80s. We're talking receiver numbers. We're getting down to 70. We're talking, linemen, and then just slowly but surely we'll get to that 0 spot and watch some college football. But it's getting close, man. When you can do it 100 days or less, college football will be here before you know it.
Yeah, and I can't wait for it, brother. Well, let's cut it there so you can get your ass out there on the trails. But I do appreciate you, as always, taking the time. I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out. And if you made it this far, don't forget to give us that 5-star written review on the Apple Podcast app or on Spotify, which you Android people more than welcome to leave us a review on Spotify. But that's going to do it. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.